Hey guys, Coach Adam talking to you again today, and I got a hot one for you coming off of the Toronto Pro. So today we are diving into the Toronto Pro, which has everyone talking. Have we found a new star? We have a new Olympia qualified athlete coming off of the show this Sunday. Let's dive right into it. So first, let's go into the scorecards for the show. In first place, we had Maxine, which was a strong favorite going into the show. That's who I had as actually the favorite going into the show. Cassandra in second place. We had Anna in third place. And we had Alice Marchisio from Italy in fourth place, all with perfect scores 3, 6, 9, and 12. So looking at all of them, I want to go into each of their physiques and give you a real quick rundown. But the main thing I want to go into is going to be the battle between Cassandra and Maxine that really shook things up, because there was arguments for both of them, but I think there was a clear winner, and I do think the judges really got this one right. You know, sometimes I want to always be vocal about what I think the judge's decision was right in my eyes. This one, I think 100% they got it right, and for a few key reasons. I know there's a lot of people out there talking, saying, you know what, I don't see how that happened, and I'm going to go into why they're saying that and what what the reasoning was behind it. So first off, let's go ahead and go into fourth place and into third place. Looking at fourth place here, let me get fourth place here. So looking at her overall physique, I mean, this is a fantastic physique. You really, if you were to put any one of these girls in a different show and they were to win a show, you're not going to run into too many people arguing with these. All of these girls have awesome physiques. Look at the shoulder width on both of them. I mean, these are some really good shoulder width, some great clavicle width here. The lats are great. The shape is beautiful. Really good hourglass shape. Now, the thing is, the conditioning at this show was a little bit all over the place in this top four. So there is a little bit too lean, and there's a little bit too detailed, and that's really where the issues came down and why Maxine stood out so much. So when you're looking at the overall detail here on fourth place, looking at her leg detail, look at how deep those cuts are in those quads. Those are some deep cut quads. Now, in the upper body, not so bad. I think the conditioning is exactly where it pretty much needs to be. But in the quads and in the detail of the legs, which I think hurt two competitors here, she actually got hurt a little bit, just a little bit too deep in those quads. I also think that this posing foot's just a tiny bit wide. I think if she brought this posing foot in just a hair, it would really help her lines, because when you have your feet posing a little bit wider, it does create a little bit bigger of a leg. Now, if you have that with more detail to the legs, I think it widens up the lower body, makes it look just a little bit bigger. She could shrink that up to help her balance from upper to lower body, which would help her sell balance just a little bit more. So not off. These are all the little fine-tuning things. There's nothing crazy about her physique that needs to change. I think soften up her legs a little bit, move that posing a tiny bit, and we're good to go. Now, looking at third place, again, really good conditioning on her physique. I don't think she needs to really work on her conditioning. I think it's where it needs to be. You see the difference here in the quads, right? In the difference of the lines. Look at how deep that striation is in that quad. And then here, you want to see a line here, but you don't want to see overly deep detail in those legs. Now, the other thing too, I think she's overarching a little bit. You know, you can overarch a tiny bit, and you can see how her core is kind of projecting upward, and you see that rib cage is kind of popping forward, giving her that kind of rounding here. I think that she could just tone down on how much she's pushing and so upright. Of course, it's going to make her shoulders look a little bit better when you're more upright like that, but you have to do it. You have to do it where it's fine tuned. And if you look at Maxine and Cassandra, they don't have that kind of that upper push of that rib cage up top. So it's just straight and flat all the way through, but she's pushing just a little bit. Now, I don't know if that would have been enough to put her in a second place position, but it definitely wouldn't have hurt. Now, another thing that can be done from the back pose, so looking at them from the back, a couple things. One, on Anna here, who's in third place. Now, I do think she's also pushing a little bit hard, and when you're pushing this hard, you got to be careful with how much of your hamstring detail starts showing. You see how she's getting this vertical leg separation, and you're getting this deep V. So you get that deep V where you're seeing those adductors really pop out, and you get that vertical hamstring separation where you're getting that full-on, we call ham ropes, not hamstrings. That's going to hurt you a little bit in that back pose. Now, the other thing that she's doing, you see how small this stage is? It's a pretty small stage in terms of, how wide the girls are out. Here's the middle, here's the direct middle of the line. A lot of times, girls will angle their pose to the judges and they'll do a far angle off on their legs. And you really don't need to do that. You don't need to angle off like that on a small stage when you're just one off center. Here's the center, she's one off center, and she's a little bit angled off. You can see her front, her left foot is just angled just more so the judges can do that. Now, if you're on the very far left or very far right and it's a big stage and you're kind of closer to the judges, that would be a time where you can angle off. But when you're in a position like this, when you're in a situation like this, you really don't need to angle. So for you girls out there who are on the edges, on the back pose, you really don't need to angle that much. And not that it's going to hurt her that much here. I don't think it hurts her at all, actually, but it's just not necessary. And so just something for everyone to be out there, because I do see girls doing that in scenarios where it just doesn't make any sense to do it. And sometimes they're angling way too much, and it's like, it just kind of looks a little out of place. Not that it's going to necessarily hurt you too much, but it just looks a little out of place. So the other things that she can do is just tone down on the posing on that back pose. You don't need to pose so hard on that back pose, especially if you're getting that hamstring separation. Could it have been enough to move her in second place? I don't know. Based on how second place is posing, which I'll go into in her conditioning, I don't think it would have helped her, because I think that her conditioning hurt her quite a bit. Now, other little things that could be helpful is just, the hair is just a little bit long here. You're seeing it get on top of the glutes just a little bit. When she's in transition, when she's hitting that back pose, it's just getting on top of the glutes just a little bit. But I honestly don't think it's long enough to make a big impact, but just something to be aware of for future shows. So let's go ahead and go into number 1 and 2 and see where the differences really were. So now we are in the meat and potatoes of it. 1 versus 2. What do we got going on here? Why did this all happen, right? So if you have a trained eye, you will clearly see the reasoning behind this. There's a lot of pluses for Maxine. I was seeing pictures of her this week as check-ins are going on. I'm friends with James, of course, so he was sending me her pictures and saying, hey, what do you think here? And I was like, man, she looks awesome. Like, there's not much to do here. And he was telling me she's going to be really, really good, and I absolutely am a believer. Now, so the question is she a new superstar? Where are the faults? Where are the holes? And there really aren't many, but I am going to jump into them. But I do think that she is someone to watch out for this year. This physique is very impressive. This is, to me, and I haven't seen, now here's the thing, we haven't seen her against any high-level competition yet. So to me, she looks like she's a top 15 physique, potentially even a top 10 physique this year going to Olympia. This is a very impressive physique, but there are a couple of holes. So what happened here between her and Cassandra? Well, here's the thing. Maxine is really good, and I think Maxine would have beat Cassandra even if Cassandra was 100% at this show. I know that's a lot to say, but that's how good Maxine is. Genetically, structurally, just very, very impressive physique, very round muscle bellies. She's got a beautiful glow to her skin. Everything's there. The hair, the skin, the makeup, the beauty, the lines, the joints, everything's there. Structurally is there. So she's going to be a very good competitor. I think she would have beat her either way. But Maxine, this is a scenario where Maxine would have won probably either way, but Cassandra did beat herself at the same time, and she beat herself because her conditioning was pretty intense. I'm sure she got that feedback already, and she's going to be working on that for the next show, so she'll actually be one who's going to be better when she's a little softer. Now, looking at her leg detail, these pictures, I will say, are a little softer than the videos that I was seeing. This happens with pictures from time to time. They'll just be a little bit softer. The photographers will stop down the camera or whatever they do to make it a little bit softer, or just there's filters on it, whatever. But the girls are a little bit softer than there was in videos that I was seeing. So when I was seeing Cassandra in transition and making those changes, there was a lot of detail. Like glute detail was striding, the quads were striding, the hamstrings were separating. There's just way too much detail on the legs for the judges not to see that. And when you get someone who's round and full versus someone who's really strided in the legs, then you're going to run into that issue. Now, I don't think Cassandra has like a density issue. Sometimes I'll talk about density and being too much detail and that being the problem. So she doesn't really have that. It's just a body fat issue. It was just a little bit too lean, and she kind of beat herself here. Now, again, she would have probably lost to Maxine either way. Maxine is that good. I do think, well, at least I think so. I'm only seeing her next to competition that's not top tier yet. I did see her last year against Ashley, where she got second place in Vancouver to Ashley. But this is it's been a year since then. This is a different physique. She's fully developed into her physique now. She's filled it out. This is a different level Maxine than we saw last year. This is a 2.0 Maxine, if you want to call it that. But this Maxine would beat that Maxine 7 days a week. There'd be no chance. This Maxine could beat that Maxine, even if this Maxine was off. That's how much different she is now. She's made a lot of improvements. So really happy with seeing her back on stage and seeing her just dominate with a perfect score. Now, where are the holes for Maxine? Where are the improvement areas for her? So, I talk a lot about quads, and I always want to say, exactly how it is. Now, the only thing I see with Maxine right now is I do see her quad being a little bit developed, a little bit rounder, and then the rest of her body. It is a little bit developed. You look at the top 4, she was the most developed in the quads. She definitely does have some developed quads. Now, what's the difference of quads and density of quads? That's going to be the real issue, because I always harp on the quads, and that's something that I'm always looking at. And I look at it mainly for balance, for conditioning, for density. All those 3 things are very obvious on the quad, Now, she has big quads. She does. The balance is a little bit off with the quads dominating on her physique. That is going to be the one thing where if she can correct it a little bit, then that could be something that pushes her into that top 10. I don't know if she's top 15 right now, top 10 right now. She's up there. She's a very good competitor, even with her quads being where they're at right now. I do think they're a little round. They're a little bit fuller than they need to be for a bikini, and it does throw off her balance just a little bit. Now, again, I'm super nitpicking here. There is no reason for me to nitpick besides she's so good that it warrants some critique of where the improvement areas are, right? So that's the only area that I'm really seeing of improvement, and I do think there could potentially be a little bit more development to that lat, creating more width, which will help her balance her upper to lower body too. So these are little tiny things. Now, are big quads a bad thing? Not when they're not too striated or too dense. A lot of people can get away with those full quads. Now, if you think about it, Laura Lee would be a good example. She has big quads, and we've only heard she had too big of quads one time, right? We've only heard it once, maybe twice, where she was just a little bit too developed in the quads. She came back, she toned it down. She didn't need to tone it down that much to make these big improvements. She toned it down a little bit, even though she still has really powerful quads, but they were never dense. That's the thing about Laura Lee's quads. They're never dense. Same thing with Maxine. Her quads are big and round, but they're not dense. So you don't look at them and you're like, oh, that's too much detail, too much striations. I can see it every step she takes. With Cassandra, when she was walking out, she has smaller quads than Maxine, but you could see every detail. So can this be a posing thing? Can this be a posing change for her? We all saw, with Amy at the New York Pro, I always talked about her quads. When she changed her posing, it looked a lot better. It looked a lot more balanced from upper to lower bodies. I got to give her credit for that. Can this be something that Maxine does too? So obviously, it's going to come with time and fine-tuning. She's going to have to get next to some Tier 1 competitors again, which I do think is going to be happening soon from what I'm hearing. And if she does, we can see, okay, where are the holes actually at when she's next to someone who's Tier 1, who's balanced, and who's there. But I do think we have ourselves a new star to be looking at. Now, looking at them both from the back is going to be a different scenario too. Again, Maxine, really, really full, round glutes, has those 3D glutes, great tie-ins. Now, this is the thing. She has great tie-ins without etched tie-ins. That's the difference. You want that round, full glute. You want that round, full tie-in. You don't want crazy depth to those tie-ins. You don't want that full-on etched tie-in. So when you look over here at Cassandra, she doesn't have that full etching of the tie-in, but it's very, very close. But she does have it in transitions. When you're transitioning, you could see the full etching. When she takes that step, you could see that how conditioned she is at the very top of these glutes. If you can see that that divot there. Now, I do think her suit hurts a little bit too. If you see the very top of the glute here, so I don't know if you guys can see it. If you zoom in, you'll see the suit. There's like a little gap of the top of her glute and the suit right in this circle here. I think that does hurt her. It makes, especially when you're so conditioned, because it looks like you're even more conditioned when you're seeing that kind of the top ridge of the glute when you're in transition. And someone's that lean, you're seeing that top kind of origin of the muscle, that area where it connects, and you're seeing it. And then in transitions, you could see her fully striated on her glutes. You could see fully etching on the tie-ins. You could see the hamstrings being just too detailed, and it's in transition. And the judges are watching when you're in transition. Now, in the pictures, again, these pictures are a little bit softer. I do think these pictures don't show Maxine justice on the back pose, because from videos that I was seeing, she was a little bit harder than this. But this is the things that you're seeing. Look at her adductors. You're not seeing any deep V. You're not seeing a crazy V to her adductor. Look at the roundness of the hamstring. The roundness is there without any vertical hamstring separation, without any detail to those hamstrings. It's just round and it's there, and you can tell she works out, but it's not this crazy crisp hamstrings with detail. Now, if you see over here on Cassandra, you're seeing that full separation of that hamstring, full separation, and you're seeing starting to get a little bit signs of that V of those adductors just coming in just a little bit too tight. So from the back, Maxine wins. Now, from the V taper, and that's the one other thing that I saw from Maxine, is that she could use a little bit better V taper from the back pose and from the front pose. I think she can use a little bit more lat. Cassandra does win from the upper body on this back pose. She's got a better V taper. She's got the rear delts pop a little bit more. So I would have her winning on the upper body. But because she hurts herself so bad with this conditioning, it's not really even a contest when you get to that. So yeah, I do think we have a new star on our hands. It's someone to watch out for. We'll see if she does. I do think, the word is she's going to do one more show, maybe before the Olympia. Who knows how many after that. But I would like to see her next to some tier 1 competition. But that's someone who needs to be on everyone's list going into the Olympia as someone to watch for. She is that good. And she has a lot of time to get better, too. We have a good amount of time before the Olympia. We saw what Laura Lee did just in a few weeks, going from one show to the next. What is 4 months going to do for Maxine? So I'm excited for this year. Happy to see a new rising star. I hope that the hype is true. I believe it is. It's rare you're going to run into a structural physique, round muscle bellies like that, skin tone, clavicle width, joints, all that, beauty flow, everything's there. So we'll see how high she ends up. I'm thinking that she's going to be at least a top 15er this year, and she's going to be someone to watch out for. So Bikini Roll just got real interesting this weekend. We have a lot of people that qualified, so I'll be jumping in those videos coming up here soon too. As always, TeamElitePhysique.com for worldwide online contest prep. I'll talk to you guys later.